Hello and welcome, my wonderful students, to page 2 of our theater notebook notes. We are talking about the production calendar today. As you can see on my slideshow, I am reversed. I don't know which way is left or right. All right, so let's start with titling and numbering your page. First of all, hop up into your table of contents, and on page numbered 2 in your table of contents, write production calendar. And then on the current page, number your page with a 2 in the bottom outside corner. It should be a left side page if you only took up one page for the first page of notes. Title the page production calendar. Like last time, we're going to continue to use the sample notebook page that you see over here on the right to indicate when you're expected to write down notes for later. Now, if you ended up taking more than one page of notes for page number 1, make sure that all the notes pertaining to page 1 are numbered 1, and then if you go over one page on this one, make sure all notes pertaining to production calendar are marked with a page 2. Our page numbers refer to the content, not the physical piece of paper. And final reminder, there's going to be more content in this video than you have to write on this page, so really pay attention to the sample notebook page on the right side of the screen when it comes up, to know what you're supposed to be noting down and what we're going to go into later. A lot of the content today ties into the next several pages in our notebook, so you don't have to define every single little thing today. Just stick to the sample, okay? All right, so first question, what is a production? A production is basically any performance organized by our theater. So if it can be a one-person monologue, it can be a big budget musical, it might even be a simple audio drama. If it's produced by the theater, it is a production. Same root word. To keep track of the many productions that a company might put on in a year, there's always a master production calendar that shows what phase every single show is in throughout the year. And there is an individual production calendar. So our theater company maintains a production calendar for each individual show. That helps plan out the tasks that we have to accomplish to meet our deadlines to make our show happen in a timely and simple fashion. So we're going to go over the basic layout of a production calendar for one show in these notes today. First of all, you have to find a script. Let's talk a little bit about how scripts are found. These scripts are typically picked by producers and sometimes run past artistic directors in a theater company. So to plan a production, you first have to know what play you're going to do. What's your script? Again, if it's a short, small cast that's just a play, no music, no dancing, you'll have a much shorter production calendar. If it's a big old musical with fights and choreography and crazy scene changes, you'll have a longer production calendar. So here's the upsides and downsides of selecting an already published show. The downside is it costs money. People have to get paid for the work that they've done, and your fees, well, our fees as a theater company, go to paying back those people for the shows they wrote and the company that produces the shows for them. So we also have to buy copies of scripts for everybody. We're not allowed to just photocopy one script that we bought from a bookstore kind of thing. And the licensing fees go to everyone who was involved in making the show. The upsides of a already scripted show is it's already been tested and reviewed, people have performed it, and we have a great frame of reference for how we can put on that same show. We can watch their performances, take some of their ideas, make them our own, and we know if it's a big name production that random people that may not otherwise come to our theater might come see our show. So if we ever put in the very costly licensing fee to do a big Disney production, you're going to get parents around our city who are going to say, I'm going to take my kid to that, even if they would have never gone to a play before, because they recognize the name and that brings interest. It also saves a lot of time versus writing your own original script, and if it's in the public domain, copyright speaking, it's free. We love free. Then, on the other hand, our particular department is very unique because we often write our own scripts. Now, writing your own script, the only downsides are that it's not really well known and it's never really been tested. But every script has to start somewhere. So a script that's not well known doesn't mean it's a bad script. It just means that people aren't going to see the name of it and say, I know that show, I'm going to go see that. It's mostly people coming in because they already know the theater, they already support us as a program, and they just want to keep giving us that support, which is great. But you do lack a little bit of marketability. And it's a little bit untested, so there's always some hiccups while we're putting together a script for the first time. We might find a scene change that does not work the way we thought it would, or some continuity errors in the script that were overlooked while we were writing it. So we keep rewriting and editing as we go, and it takes more time. But here's the good side. It's custom to your department, which means that you are having the exact number of roles that you need for the people you have in the department. It fits the tone of your theater. Like, we usually don't go super dark and melodramatic, but also we don't do goofy over-the-top musicals. So we can get a script that fits our style as a production, as a theater company. We have a humorous take with a little bit of serious, and we like to be very tongue-in-cheek with our productions and do things that really inspire us to get our actors interested in what we're doing and make our audience love our shows. And it's free if you write it yourself. So writing a script by yourself means you're not paying anyone else to write it for you. So when we come together as a department and write a script, we save a lot of money. We're not paying a publishing company because we're publishing it ourselves. We're putting it together on our own. Now, if you work with a professional theater and you're hiring someone to write a script for you, of course you're going to commission a professional author to write a script for you. That's a different level and something to always keep in mind. Commission costs may or may not be more than licensing fees. It's totally dependent on the show and the people that you're working with. So take a look at our sample notebook page. Make sure you have these notes down and pause the video if you need another minute to write them down. Second, we're going to create a vision for our show. So when you first select a script, you have a production design team, and that's a group of people that are all knowledgeable about how to make this show happen. And they analyze the script and they create what's called the production concept. And that concept is going to guide everything moving forward to make a good, cohesive show. The production team holds production meetings throughout the entirety of the production calendar, right up until those final rehearsals, to check in with each other and adjust any technical elements of the show. And then once the design is finished, it's passed on to the builders and the operators to implement them and bring them to life. Again, if you need a minute to get these notes down, pause the video so that you can finish getting these notes. Third, we move into rehearsals. Rehearsals happen for three major groups. It's actually two, but in different combinations. We have our actors, we have our crew, and we have our full tech rehearsals. So your actors begin rehearsing anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks before a show opens. Opening is when it is first performed for the public. So if a show is really complicated, like a big musical with fight scenes and choreography, you're going to want at least 8 weeks to make that happen. I've seen a musical with a 10-week rehearsal run. It can be pretty intense. But if you have a more low-key show with less actors in it or a shorter show, you might be able to pull it off in just 1 month. Your technical team is your crew. You're going to begin rehearsing 1 or 2 weeks before the show. You need to know how and when to move or execute every technical element before you ever put actors on the stage, so we can have a safe and seamless transition from just acting to acting with tech. And then finally we have Tech Week, and that's where it starts to get crazy. It's the final week of rehearsals leading up to the show, and it combines all parts of your technical side and your acting side and puts them all together. The rehearsals get pretty crazy. If you need a minute to get these notes down, make sure you pause the video and finish these notes. We got one more section. Finally, the timeline. We're going to just do a visual representation of what all this looks like in a 14-week long timeline. So I did 14 weeks. This honestly could take 11 weeks, maybe 10, depending on the show and who's working on it, etc. But as you see, we have it divided into 5 different sections, and here they are. Our first month is our design process. So that's when we create the production concept, we have our meetings, we start to build, and we get everything ironed out before we start putting the actors in or painting anything. Just make sure we all have one cohesive design concept. And then we move into our rehearsals. So our actors are going to start with what's called table reads, and then they move into their blocking phase, and then full staging of the whole production in full run-throughs. Our builders are going to keep working during this time. So construction's still going on while rehearsals happen. And then our crew is going to start rehearsing later into the rehearsal period. They're going to practice all their lighting and scene changes and get everything set up and installed. The last week of rehearsal is the craziest. That's our tech week. All these items here pertain to just tech week. Cue to cue rehearsal, full dress rehearsal, full run-throughs, all things we do in tech week. Then we finally put on the show. We perform. At our theater, we usually do 2 to 4 performances on one weekend. So they would technically be at the end of week 11, the end of tech week. And then when we're done performing, we strike, which means we clean everything up, pack it up, put it away, and get ready for the next thing. So let's see how our overall notes page is going to look in the end. Make sure that you have a nice condensed production timeline. All you need on this page is just how many weeks things take and what order they go in. On later pages, we're going to go into what all the different types of rehearsal are and all the different people involved in making the show happen. So that is our second page of notes on the production calendar. This is what guides us throughout our whole year. It's the thing that drives our projects and keeps us on task, and we're going to be using production calendars anytime we do any productions, no matter how big or small. So I'm looking forward to getting to work on our first production.